Well, hello there, and welcome to another Measure School live stream here on YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever you see us currently. Love to hear if you can actually hear me. The most important question of the year, can you hear me? So let me know in the chat down below. And we gather here today for another interesting episode of our live streams, and this is going to be a peer tracking episode. So what is peer tracking all about? Well, that is something to be explained actually with a peer, and therefore I have our insanely talented Sophia here as well.
Hi.
And we are going to do a peer tracking episode. So again, what is peer tracking all about? Well, if you know a programming technique called peer programming, then peer tracking is something that we are going to do today. Peer programming is basically where you have a driver and a navigator, and the navigator tells you where to go, and the driver does the programming or does the actual implementation. And we kind of thought we take that concept and put it into tracking, and we came up with peer tracking. So already our third episode, and previously we have talked about iframe tracking. What was the first one, Sophia?
Form tracking.
Form tracking, iframe tracking. And today we want to talk a little bit about something called Google Ads. And the most important part in Google Ads is obviously conversion tracking. And this is what we want to tackle today. Maybe we'll start out with a little bit of the problem, Sophia. What is the topic, kind of?
Yeah. So we are getting many requests these days from people. They figured out how to set up ads conversion tracking, but the problem they're facing is adding dynamic values. So I decided to bring this up because this can be useful to everyone, to our audience. This can help many people on YouTube. And I prepared the case for you. So I have my website. Maybe I could share my screen.
Yep.
This is my demo shop built with WordPress. I also have Google Tag Manager account, and my Tag Manager is already implemented here. So you can see it, right? And this is my ads account. And now I want to track my purchase, and I want not to only track the number of purchases, but also the dynamic values, such as transaction ID and price.
Right. So just to think through this problem a little bit further, I think that we can say that there is, first of all, conversion tracking is super important, because without conversion tracking, you won't be able to know if the money that you spend on any kind of given channel, Google Ads, for example, is actually well spent money. And you can track the conversions inside of Google Ads. So you can send data when a user buys to Google Ads, and then Google Ads can tell you the user who has actually bought this product just now, he clicked on an ad earlier, and therefore you need to send over the conversion data. Super crucial for Google, for any kind of PPC and paid marketing. Then you have the second step, if you want to go a little bit further and make this even better, is the question of how much money did you spend on Google Ads and how much money did you get back? And that is something you can only do when you do conversion tracking with actually a value attached to it. So if the user buys a product for $5, then we send $5 back. If a user sends back buys a product for $15, $20, we send $20 back. So that's actually a dynamic value, because not every time the value is the same, right? Unless you have a shop where you only sell one product with always the same price. So today we want to tackle both implementations. One is the conversion tracking itself, and then sending over the dynamic value. So for me as the navigator, my first task for you, Sophia, is to actually go through a test case here and buy a product, so we see what we are actually dealing with. So maybe buy a product on our demo store.
Any product, or should I do it with the Tag Manager preview so that I know?
Do it with the Tag Manager preview. That's always helpful. So go into the preview mode and we can see more.
It's already, my URL is provided here. Here we go. Tag assistant connected. Let me go back to this one. Okay. And I
Or
should buy a product, right?
yes, buy a
So,
product. And by the way, guys, if you have any kind of questions during this stream, just put them into the chat. We'll try to monitor it and answer any kind of questions that might arise. Now, this is a crucial step that a lot of people always want to skip over because they don't like testing. But testing is so crucial for tracking because otherwise you will not have your you won't have the right data in your system or miss something there. So we get to the page of all pages, the thank you page. And on that thank you page, we can see that there's some information here attached to it. We have the order number, we have the email, obviously all of tracking information that we might want to bring in, and also the total. And the total is actually the conversion value that we want to track, right? So that would be the 22.99 because sometimes you have order and shipping and taxes attached to that as well. So the question is now, first of all, how do we set up that on this page? Or let's define actually what would success look like, right? What is a successful implementation? What would you say, Sofiia? How can we, in the end, test it so we know if we have done everything correctly?
that's a very good question. I would say when our conversion fires, when we have the correct values under our variables, when we double check, then this is successful, I think.
Right. In the end, I think ultimately you would need to go even a step further and look into your Google Ads account, wait till somebody buys from Google Ads. So if you have your ads turned on, and then you see it in the conversion column inside of Google Ads. So if you could go to Google Ads over there just to show
Sure.
everyone, and if you basically you would see it here already. There's cost.
Right here.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
would
have
have.
any data, so
This is a test account, obviously, but we want to see data coming up there. And then also, if you go into campaigns, I think you have do you have a test campaign set up?
um, I was playing around a long time ago, but I'm not sure.
If you
It's just,
go, back up and go to all campaigns right there, and then smart, you have smart campaigns. If you go on the left hand menu under create, there's also campaigns. Right. So here we have the normal ads view, and if you see on the left side, if you scroll all the way to the right side, is it right? Yeah, right. You would have here cost per conversion, conversion rate, clicks. We want to fill these columns. So conversion rate, actually, and conversion, obviously. We want to fill
Mhm.
conversion, and then we also want to fill. What is there? Is there another column called conversion rate, clicks, costs? No, we actually need to have the value there as well, which would be cost per conversion.
Oh, here, this one, I guess. No, cost per conversion. Here we go.
Yeah, but that is the cost divided by the conversion. If you could go to columns over the
Here.
table, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you click that, and there should be under performance, I think, or conversions, under conversions, there should be conversion value. And this is the column that we want to actually fill as well. So if you click apply, this is the ultimate test if our data shows up here. We can't show you this today, unfortunately, because we would need to have an ads campaign running and somebody actually clicking on the ad click. But that's how you know that we've done this implementation right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get started. In order to track the thank you page that you just had open, we can use many different methods. I guess one of the methods would be to actually utilize page view trigger, for example, or set up the tag that way. But that way we wouldn't utilize, we can't get the actual value of the thing. So Sofiia, what would you suggest we do at this point?
Yeah, I would go to the Tag Manager preview and I would have a look what I have there. If I have a data layer available, if there are any custom events coming also with the data layer.
Great. So that's what we're going to do. Let's go over to the preview mode. and see what we have available on this page. So you see all of these different events on the left side. These are the events. We have one event called purchase, and this purchase event would be perfect if it gives us the right data. So if you click on this data API call, we see here we have data about the item that was bought, but also the actual value of the whole interaction, which is $22.99, exactly what we need. Now, just to explain to people who don't know how this got there, this is something that you normally would need to build into your platform. This is not something that is there by default. You would either implement it yourself with a data layer push, ask your developer to do it, or you can utilize a plugin that you can install on your page. In our case, probably it is a plugin that is installed on our WordPress page. The WP for WordPress, WP for WordPress plugin is a common one that you could use for WordPress. There are different other data layer plugins that you could use for Shopify or for Magento or any of the other e-commerce platforms. So you need to have this in place. You need to have the right data inside of your data layer in order to make this actually happen. Okay, so now we can utilize this. How can we utilize this, Sofiia?
Yeah, so now we can see those values here, right? And they're changing each time. So next time it could be a different transaction ID or a different value. So we have to identify what exactly we need to track for our ads conversion, right? So in our case, it should be a transaction ID and a value. And now we have to grab this value somehow, right? From this data layer and pass it to Google Ads.
Right. The other piece of information that we have in this API call, as I call it, or the data layer push, is the actual event. When does this happen? This is like a point in time in Google Tag Manager when this actually happens, and there is a name attached to it, and it's called purchase. So it's not on any of the other events, but it actually happens on this purchase event. And now we can utilize this purchase event inside of Google Tag Manager to also build a trigger. So keep these three information points in mind: the event, the transaction ID, and the value. So now let's try to get the transaction ID first from Google Tag Manager. How would we get this in Google Tag Manager?
So let's have a look here. What do we have? How can we access it, right? So we have e-commerce, and then the next level inside we have currency, but it does not fit our case. We have items, we don't need it. We need the transaction ID. And in this case, I would use dot notation. This is how you work with it. If you do not know, maybe you could ask a developer again for help, or you could just read some tutorials about JavaScript.
We also have some tutorials on the YouTube channel. There's also an extension called the data layer checker or something.
I have it. Yes, it's a good idea because it definitely can simplify your life, by the way. This is one. This blue eye. I love it.
Okay, and here we have the purchase, and if you click on it, you can go, and here you see all the data layer keys, how you would need to key it if you want to get to one or the other data. So in our case, it would be value. You can copy that.
Well, let me double check. So because sometimes it might be not super reliable. It's cool, but it's better to double check that it is correct here.
Okay. Then we can go to Google Tag Manager and actually create the variable. And this will be a data layer variable. So a user-defined new variable, right? And then data layer variable. And here we're going to put in our dot notation. So e-commerce.value, because that's what it was in the data layer. We need to name it correctly. The naming convention that we use is always an abbreviation of the actual tag. So DLV is data layer variable. And then what are we pulling here? The value. So you could name this value or transaction value or whatever. Then let's save that. And we can create another variable. Let's create another variable. Also data layer variable. Okay. And what do we enter here now? Let's go back to the page and choose our data layer checker. and the purchase, and we want to get our
ID.
order ID, transaction ID,
Mm,
e-commerce.transaction
this
underscore.
one.
Yes, this is the key. So we copy that and put that in as well. Great.
Data layer variable transaction ID.
Okay. Now we can save this. Okay. And now for demonstration's sake, I would like you to go through another order and redo completely the order. Yes, you need to also click on the preview mode again so it loads again. And if you just buy this product really quickly, or whatever.
Maybe I'll choose a different one so that
Yeah,
there is
so you have a different value.
price.
That's true.
So this
Let's do
looks
that.
Woohoo Ninja. I like it. Let's go to our checkout. It's already pre-filled, so I can click place order.
So now we get to the thank you page. And if you go now to the tag assistant and click continue. So what I want you to do is click first of all about the 28th one in initialization.
Okay.
Right? And now you go to variables. There. And here we find our variables again, right? The data layer variable, value, and transaction ID, but they are undefined. So at this point in time, if Google Analytics would try to send them over to Google Ads, it would not find anything, and therefore our implementation would fail. That's why it's super important to find the right event when they would be filled. So you can go through and click on 29, 30, and then 31 in order to find the right ones. So here we go. So on our purchase event, we have the right transaction ID and then also the value. And at that moment in time, these values are filled. That's super important to notice. You can't just make up a trigger and say like page view trigger, for example, because the values wouldn't be actually there yet. That's why we need to build a trigger now based off this purchase event. So let's go into Google Tag Manager.
Okay.
And click on triggers.
Triggers.
And then we create a new trigger, and that will be upon which event. And these are all the events that you see also on the left side. They're a little bit named differently, but you would need to find the right event. In our case, it would be purchase. Obviously, there's no purchase in this list just yet, but we can utilize custom event as the type. And then we need to put in the right name. In our case, the event name is purchase. So have the right event name and paste that in, right? And then we are actually already done because we don't need any filters. Now you could write custom and then dash our purchase event, right? And save this. And now we have created the right trigger. All we need is actually the tag that transports this over to Google Ads. So let's go over to tags and click on new, and then tag configuration. And here we need to find Google Ads conversion tracking. Let's choose this one.
Okay.
All right, it will give us a warning down there, as you see. Conversion linker is missing. If you don't have the conversion linker installed, you need to do this additionally. So let's click create here. And you can basically click on save on the top already and just save that. Yeah, just like that. It will be installed. And now we can fill out these fields. And with these fields, we want to have it dynamic, obviously. And therefore, we will choose here a variable. And we can do this with the little brick icon on the right side.
Oh, so for conversion value, right?
For value or also for the conversion ID, which is the
value and ID. We can go to ads.
Conversion ID and conversion label is kind of the same, right?
No, we should go now and also
this one is from ads. All right. So where do we get the conversion ID and the conversion label from? Because that's where Google will send it, or Google Tag Manager will send the data, and it needs to be sent to the right account, right? So that's what we need to find out in Google Ads, obviously. So let's go over to Google Ads, and we can find this inside of tools, and then under conversion, under measurement. And here we can create a new conversion action. In our case, we are tracking a website, so let's go with that. And then we can give this a name. Oh, we can put in a website if we want to. No, we need to, right?
Scan it. Yeah, it's now obligatory. This new change in ads.
Yeah.
Scan
So
it.
we'll scan it and find the website, and then you can add certain things, but we will just go with the manual configuration because we have it all in Google Tag Manager. So then you can choose the category of your conversion, in our case purchase, the conversion name.
Our name, purchase with value.
All right. And then you can choose if there's a static value or a dynamic one. So it's a different value each time. And there's a fallback. So you can use whatever you want as the fallback value. So if there's no value, it will default back to 1. So scroll down further. And then we can count every time or just one time. In our case, every time is fine because the user could theoretically buy multiple times on our online store in one session. And then there are other attribution settings: click-through conversion, engaged view conversion window, view-through conversion, and so on, which I leave up to you. There's more to explain around these concepts, but in the end, you can leave it as default if this is the conversion that you set up, the purchase conversion that you set up. So that's it. We can click on done and
Okay.
save and continue down below. And now we should get instructions for the Google tag and for Google Tag Manager, the tab to the right.
Oh, interesting. This Google tag.
Is also
It's kind of new, right? It's just okay.
But this is kind of the manual installation if you do this whole thing with code and without Google Tag Manager. So we use Google Tag Manager. Let's go Tag Manager, and here we get our conversion ID. Let's put that in
here.
And then we can also use our purchase with value label. Right. Now we just need to attach the right trigger to our tag. And we have that prepared already.
Should provide a name.
And let's provide a name like Google Ads conversion purchase.
Okay, I will save it.
Right, then we save it and go into preview mode, and obviously we need to kind of go through a test again.
Let's see if it works. Continue. I will buy something from albums this time.
All right.
This pirate album. Check out, place order.
And by the way, if you don't have a coupon code set up yet, you need to ask that from your client in order to do all of these tests. The problem, what you did now is you reloaded the page just now, right?
Yes.
And then it will not give us our purchase value. So you need to do another test.
It's the old one. It's still in the tag
But you won't in the tag assistant. We won't see it in the.
Oh yeah, so I will do it one more time because I forgot to activate the tag assistant. Sorry. Let's do it again.
So yeah, having a coupon code or a comment field where you can put in, "Hey, please, client, refund me this purchase," is quite important. Otherwise, you'll get into a lot of pain doing these kind of implementations.
Enable it first, please. Okay.
Okay, that's enabled.
Now I can place my order.
And here we go. We get to the thank you page. Conversion tracking is firing, and if you go to the tag assistant, actually not the tag assistant legacy, right, then we can go to our purchase event, and we see here Google Ads fired. If you click on that,
Google Ads fired. Oh, this one.
Yeah, okay. If you click on the thing, then we see what data actually gets transferred, the transaction ID, and the actual conversion value of, what is it, $13.99.
Yeah.
So that should mirror whatever is on the front of the page as well. If you go back to the page. Yes, so just to
And
confirm,
voila.
yes, we have that as well. So that is now being transferred. And now what we can't really do is verify this all in Google Ads. Google Ads will at some point, if you go back to Google Ads into
Sure.
the section, if you click on done,
Done. Mm-hmm.
here you have an overview over all your conversions, and here the purchase, there would be the status, and you need to wait for the status to say we just received data. So that is something. But if you want to actually see data inside of your reports and you want to test this, you would need to click on one of your ads, go to your page, buy a product, and then hopefully everything sends and this data should come through. But this is not something we can test right now, and it's something that actually kind of costs money because you're clicking on your own ad.
Actually, it's one of the most frequently asked questions. Why do I see no recent conversions? It means that my conversion is not set up correctly, which is kind of not true, because if it would be set up in the wrong way, you would see something like unverified, right? Or tag inactive. But if you see no recent conversions, it kind of technically works. For example, we will see the status, right, in 5 hours after, let's say, it needs some time to get recorded. But it means now no one clicks your ads. This is
Yeah.
the issue.
Yeah, in the end, you also check yourself if you actually have enough traffic on your website through your Google Ads that you are sure that there should be a conversion happening. So let's say you have a 1% conversion rate. Well, you actually need to have 100 people clicking through on your ads that one person actually converts, right? So have at least 100 clicks come through in order to evaluate before you say, no, it's not working, everything is broken. All right, so this is it with our implementation.
Not yet. Not
Any
yet.
more question?
I have a question. So
Yes, go ahead.
let's say, yeah, we were lucky because we have this data layer, right? Because we have maybe WordPress and we have the ability to use the plugin. But let's say I need to implement it now. I don't have a developer. He's not available, or she, and I cannot reach out to him or her, and I need it urgently, and I don't have data layer, no possibility to implement it. Is there any other workaround?
Yes, I hesitantly talk about workarounds because they have drawbacks. One is the technique of scraping. So on the thank you page, when you go back to the thank you page, we could actually take from the website itself and take data from the website and transfer it over to Google Tag Manager via a scraping technique, which would be JavaScript. And for that, you would need to kind of know a little bit of CSS in order to transfer the data over to Google Tag Manager. I would advise against this because if the page in any way changes at any point in time, so for example, there's a new redesign, then your tracking will break and you will get incorrect data. And therefore, you should always use a data layer. But for a quick and dirty method, and if you're sure that you're going to change it over to a data layer eventually, you could set this up via the scraping method. Yeah, there are a few extensions that can also help you to get the right variable set up. So what is the one variable? It's called.
Oh, I have one.
What's it called?
A GTM variable builder. Should we test it out?
All right. Let me just turn off here the graphic that we have on the top. Otherwise, people can't see it. All right. Where's the extension?
Oh, it's right here. So should we try implementing also doing this way?
Okay. When you click it, then you need to first open the developer tools, right?
Inspect. Yes, and then console.
You need to go to the console, and then you need to kind of find the element that you want to track and mark it. And then you can click on that little extension called GTM. What's it called? GTM
GTM
Variable Builder. Yeah,
I wonder if this is a small clock or
I
what this
also don't know.
sign is, or it's a very small range. I cannot see it. Like, guys, maybe it looks like a small clock with a wrench inside.
And here you can, it gives you two codes. One is, the first one you should always try out in your console itself by copying it. And then you can paste that in the JavaScript console, press enter, and see if it gives you the right value back. So 13.99. Ideally, I would actually try this out. Yeah, I don't know if what it does actually, because it could be that it looks for the dollar sign, right? But what if you have euros, or what if you have other currencies? Maybe it doesn't recognize it anyway. So you would need to test it with many different iterations in order to make it sure. But to make it quickly, this works right now. Let's go ahead and then copy the second part of the thing
Mm-hmm. Let me
right
copy
there.
this one.
And
Okay.
this is what you can implement into a JavaScript variable. So you could go ahead and create a new custom JavaScript variable.
And custom JavaScript. Okay.
And there you paste that in, and you can name it custom JavaScript
And
and the value.
custom JavaScript variable value. Okay.
And then you could save it. You could do the same thing for the transaction ID, but I think we can skip that and just
Yeah.
go and test it out. Just go
Let's.
to preview and
Mhm.
go through another product purchase, and then see if the right value gets transmitted.
Okay. So let me buy this time something else. Poster. Add to cart. Checkout. Here we go. Place order.
All
One.
right, so the variable should now be filled with what value? How much did we buy?
We have
16.99.
99.
Okay, so let's go ahead and go into our variable.
And here we go.
And here we go. So 16.99. Yeah. Again, not my preferred way, but it's definitely a valid way to also track the value.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just a workaround as a second option. Right.
Yes.
But then I have another question to you, Julian.
Okay.
Oh, I know you would be against such a scenario, but let's say this is my thank you page. I do have my values on the previous page here, checkout, but I want to track this dynamically. But let's say I don't have this card where I see the total. So I
Right.
just have this thank you message and that's it. So my
Right.
value is on the checkout page, but it's not available here. Is there any way to track it? Or
Yes. So that in that case, you don't have information on this page, but on a previous page. Now, the browser itself and Google Tag Manager cannot remember any data from previously, but what it can do is write cookies, and cookies are actually the method to remember data in a browser. And that would be, if you go to the checkout page, we could pull the value in, put it into a cookie, and then later on this page, if the value is not there, we can read the value from the cookie itself. That is possible, and has its drawbacks as well. So if the user doesn't accept cookies or has some kind of weird cookie policy, it might get deleted. You might have a user going multiple times to the checkout page and deciding differently or so. Then you would need to override the cookie each time. So yeah, possible, but in the end, the best way is to just use the data layer. That's my preferred way, and the way that most people should go, I think. All right, another peer tracking, I think, is. Or do you have another question, Sophia?
no, I'm done for today. So you
All right.
answered my burning questions. Maybe I'll come up with some. So I will prepare them for the next episode of peer tracking.
All right. Um, We do have some people in the chat. If you guys have anything that you want to let us know about right now, please put it in the chat. If there are any more questions, we can help you answer them right now. And thank you so much for now, if you guys are on here, for being on. Oh, we had a question here from... Oh, I need to make this bigger, otherwise I can't read it.
I can read it for you.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
So the question is, what would be the best way to differentiate between existing and new customers using the Google Ads stack if you don't have a general login and no e-commerce business, but rather a lead generation business? Use case, for example, helping making the new customer acquisition feature of PMax more accurate. I found it in the chat.
Okay. I mean, this is not what it's built for. Or Google, yeah, it's not what it's built for in Google Ads. So Google Ads just wants you to send over lead information. But if you want to be sneaky about it, you could set up 2 conversions, and one conversion would be for new customers and one for old customers. Now you just need a way to, as you said, differentiate the new from the old customers. And what are new and old customers? That's a definition that's up to you. The one way to do it, to say, anytime a user comes to your website, they get a cookie, and this cookie will be persistent on their browser. So when they come back, you know, they have been to my browser, so they're an old user, and that would be an old user, and then you only fire the old conversion for them. If they're a new user that didn't have this cookie before, and therefore you identify them as new, and you fire the other conversion with them, that is possible. If you define a new or old user as somebody who you don't have he doesn't have a user account yet, then obviously there needs to be a login first before you can identify the user as new or old, right? And then fire one or the other conversion. It is not ideal, I would say, because Google Ads might not... Google Ads is tricky with the conversions, because you cannot really differentiate inside of the system if they are new or old and have their own rule set around it. It might also happen that these could overlap, right? So a user comes in, he's a new user, submits the form, and then he leaves, but comes back 2 days later and submits another form, then he is an old user. Now you have 2 conversion counted inside of Google Ads, which obviously would not be ideal, because it's just one person. So all of this has its upsides and downsides outside, but I hope that gives you a little bit more information. Here's another question.
Hi.
This...
But we can maybe answer it, because I assume they were communicating in the chat.
Okay.
Do you use server-side tracking for Google Ads, or do you implement the Google Ads stack in your GTM client?
So normally, Google Ads, you can do server-side tracking as well with GTM, and that would be a more advanced method of doing it, because you need to have actually a server running. So I hope... I mean, this is not the question to us. I guess he asked it for somebody else.
But maybe this could be an idea for the next peer tracking episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any solution for data layer for Shopify? So data layers can be implemented in Shopify manually. You can utilize a plugin, or that's basically it. You can implement it manually. If you know what you're doing, you can go into the theme files and program something to have the right data pull into a data layer, and then fire your tags. You can also use a plugin. There are different ones out there, like Eleva and Nilify and Little Data, that provide the data layers for you as well. And those are mainly paid apps, I think. So this would be a solution for Shopify. All right, I think we are through with the questions. I hope I didn't forget anybody. Now to everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. If you want, you can always check out our other stuff that we do here on the channel. You can also, if you enjoyed this, give us a thumbs up. And as well as if you are interested in becoming a premium member of ours, where we train people, we do live trainings all the time. Become a member of our Measure Masters group, where we do live trainings, give you resources to do your job easier, and answer questions just like these all the time. So join us over there. It's definitely something that we can attest to. Really great people in there and really great questions. So for now, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Sofiia, for being here as well.
This was
Otherwise, I couldn't
so
do
much
peer
fun.
tracking.
Yeah.
And for now, let me see. Do we have an ending screen? I don't think so. So let's just say goodbye and till next time.
Bye.